Hi everyone, and welcome to F-Bomb Friday. I am your host, Tracy Preston, along with my husband, Todd. Hey, hon.
Hey, baby.
Are you ready?
You know what? I am ready.
Let's hit it. On today's episode, I'm going to tell you about a man that was about as rough as they come. This is the legend of P.K. Small, better known as Snapjaw, the Ogre of Seney. With all of the stories of Michigan folklore and legends that we talk about here on F-Bomb Friday, many of them, heck, maybe even all of them, may sound far-fetched, outlandish, and unbelievable. But the legend we'll be talking about tonight is absolutely 100% true. The story originates in the late 1800s in Seney in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. The historic community of Seney began as a railroad stop in 1881. Soon after, logging companies moved into the area to lumber white pine forests in the surrounding region. The population of Seney quickly grew to over 3,000 people. It was during this time that the town gained a reputation for being a dangerous and rowdy hotspot. The town, filled with saloons and taverns, gambling shacks, flea bag inns, and whorehouses, brimmed with fights, excessive consumption of booze, prostitution, gambling, and killings. It did not take much for things to get out of control quickly, and the town's Boot Hill Cemetery was burying new occupants on the regular. The town drew in the worst kind of folks, the unruly, the disorderly, the brawlers, drunkards, and sleazeballs. You either had to be fearless or moronic to endure in this environment. Among and perhaps the worst of the worst was a local maniac by the name of P.K. Small, appropriately named Snapjaw, the Ogre of Seney. This hulking lumberjack, standing over 6 feet 5 inches tall, would stumble precariously from one tavern to the next. His thick reddish-brown beard, matted and stained with last night's booze and who knows what else. His plaid shirt is torn and filthy, with buttons missing and threads hanging loose. His sleeves rolled up, revealing thick, hairy arms that are riddled with scratches, sores, and scars. His eyes are bloodshot, and his breath reeks of cheap whiskey and the putrid smell of rotting teeth. His nose is crooked and bulbous, with broken capillaries mapping his cheeks like a topographical map. Ugh, it's quite a visual, hon. A battered leather hat sits atop his messy, unkempt hair, which sticks out in every direction like a bird's nest. He stumbles and lurches from one patron to another, his massive boots making heavy thuds. On the floor of the saloon. His pants are held up by a length of twine. His suspenders are stretched to the point of breaking. A putrid stench emanates from his body, a mix of sweat, dirt, and vomit. It's quite descriptive, by the way. I have a lot of visuals and I can almost smell it.
Right.
PK's voice is a gravelly groan, slurred by years of heavy drinking. He speaks in a raspy tone, often incoherently, and punctuates his sentences with hacking coughs and expectorations. When he laughs, it is a throaty, phlegm-filled sound that sends shivers down the spines of those around him. He drifts from one person to the next, looking for someone to pay him for a dare. Money for what, you may be wondering? Well, for more whiskey, of course. This man would do anything, and I mean anything, in exchange for a few coins to buy himself more drink. The more disgusting the dare was, the better. The townspeople would continue to dare him for their entertainment, always trying to come up with viler and unpleasant challenges for the madman. Some examples are he would stick his head into a slimy, partially filled spittoon, or he would bite the heads off small animals like birds, snakes, rats, squirrels, and bats. So, sorry, Ozzy. PK Small, he did that first. Other dares included eating insects, rolling around in mud, or even animal waste. He also consumed animal intestines and horse manure. Oh, and he would also take on the same dares so the townsfolk who had only heard of the outlandish stories could witness them for themselves. What a mental case he was, all for a few coins. P.K. Small was infamously known as Snapjaw, the Ogre of Seney, as I mentioned, and the nickname Snapjaw originated from his imposing physique and powerful jaws, which seemed capable of snapping a man's arm in half. The Ogre of Seney's moniker was derived from not only his boisterous and unconventional behavior, but also from his gruesome, disfigured face. At some point, PK's nose was bitten off by someone or something. His nose was sewn back on either by himself or someone else. And it was done crudely, and it was also reattached crooked. Ogre seems like a very appropriate nickname. Legend has it that it was none other than our very own Michigan dog man that bit PK's nose off. Wow, what a fight that must have been. Snapjaw's reputation varied, with some depicting him as a hermit or a recluse, while others claimed he was a brutal and violent individual. Some stories report PK was a former sailor shipwrecked on the Great Lakes who wandered into the woods and later became a logger. Some say he was driven to madness by living in the harsh conditions of the northern Michigan winters, coupled with his unhealthy fondness for whiskey. Others claim that PK made a deal with the devil, trading his common sense and soul for bravery and superhuman strength. PK Snapjaw Small could very well be buried in the Boot Hill Cemetery. But then again, he possibly could have laid to rest in the woods for the wilderness to reclaim. Legend has it that his ghost still roams the forest of northern Michigan, and some nights, the sound of Snapjaw's laughter and wailing for another sip of whiskey echo through the trees, sending shivers down the spines of even the bravest woodsman. But one thing is certain, P.K. Small, the Ogre of Seney, was a force of nature, a man or monster of legend. He roamed the Upper Peninsula's wilderness like a mythological beast. His legend has endured, captivating the imagination of generations and inspiring tales of wonder and terror around campfires to this day. And let's not forget, he was 100% real. So how'd you come upon this story, Jan?
I just stumbled upon it as I was searching for more stories to do. It was just something I came across, and I was like, never heard of this guy.
I've never heard of him either.
And what do you think about this guy, P.K. Small?
Well, I don't think he was very small. Let's start with that. And he was gross.
He was very disgusting.
And I feel bad. I do feel bad for him that, clearly he had no family. Clearly he had family, but he was all alone.
All alone. All alone in the wilderness. Raised by bears, maybe?
The original Grizzly Adams.
The original Grizzly Adams. I feel bad for this guy as well, because he was such a slave to his addiction that he was willing to do anything for another drink.
That's all he had, clearly.
Yes. And shame on those townspeople.
They're cruel.
They're cruel.
Well, humans can be quite cruel. We know that.
Right. So I would have to say that he was a little bit of both. I bet he was a hermit, but then he would crawl out of his hole every night for that drink, and then he would become violent.
Well, at least he went to work.
He did go to work.
So he was a functioning alcoholic.
He had a profession.
Right. Clearly he spent all of his money and it wasn't enough.
It was not. It was never enough. It was never enough.
When is an addiction ever fed enough?
And I like the tie-in with the dog man.
I was quite shocked when I read that.
I just have this visual with this, monstrous human being that has no scruples fighting against a monstrous legendary beast. And it's amazing that they both walked away alive.
Right. Because I distinctly remember, wasn't it the Michigan Dog Man where the semi driver, right, fixed his tires or whatever it was. And then, the dog man's like running like, yo, dude,
right.
Looking in there like, I'm going to get you.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, Snapjaw, he really didn't give a hell.
He did not.
Let's go,
right,
buddy.
I wonder if somebody dared him. Hey, the dog man's just hanging out there in the woods.
Oh.
Tell you what, I'll get you a whole pint.
Yeah, this is a big purse. Get out there. Get out there. We need to make a sacrifice, and why not you?
Right.
Maybe they bought him a jug.
They probably, a big old
jug of liquor and some dinner.
Ooh,
icing on the cake.
Possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly.
And I got to tell you, the artwork that you did for this is so crazy good.
Yes.
You really captured the essence of Snapjaw. So I hope everybody takes a good long look.
Right.
Because you nailed it, babe.
I had a good number of descriptions of him that I could pull from, and it just all came together really good. And I was like, there he is. There is the Ogre of Seney.
Well, I'm not ever going to forget the look on your face. You were so excited. It was almost like you were Twinkle Toes. Look what I found. Right?
Right. Yeah, this story, it's real. The dude is real. There is historical evidence that this guy existed. There's nothing documented of when he died.
Well, of course not.
Or if he died. If he truly made a deal with the devil, maybe he's still hanging around.
Maybe he's palling up with the Michigan Dog Man.
I don't know.
Like, yo, dude, let's do this.
There's a lot of crazy shit that happens up in the UP. Have you noticed that with all these legends and folklores?
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about it, actually.
Right.
I don't know if I want to go up there now. I'm a little fearful of the UP, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I want to go up. I want to go up. I just don't want to be.
We'll go.
Yeah, I don't want to be hanging out at night.
We're not camping
in the
UP.
Yeah.
That's a hail no. Hail to the no.
Watch all these son bitches show up at the same time, too.
Oh, it would be bad. But we're going to be prepared.
That's right.
We're going to have a big sacrificial something for the wolf man or the dog man.
The dog man.
And then we're going to have a big jug of hardcore liquor. We're going to sit that out.
And a bag of Doritos for the shit elves.
Yeah. They better help us out.
Right.
Yeah. Well, great find, hon. Great story. I loved it. I had an amazing visual in my mind reading the description of this guy. So well done.
Yeah,
Bravo.
I kind of went above and beyond with that a little bit, but I thought it was important so our listeners could really get an essence of what this man was like.
Yeah. And I'm going to say, I would not be surprised if, his liver exploded and he just laid in the woods.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Right.
And I don't think anybody went looking for him because they were like, how long is it going to take this cat to die drinking this much alcohol?
He
Brutal.
smelled of death. They probably were like, they could probably smell him out in the woods and thinking he's probably just taking a drunken nap somewhere.
I don't even think the buzzards would pick at him. They're like, nope, no. We are not putting that in our bodies.
That's right. Well, maybe the squirrels and the bats and the rats got him.
I'm thinking he was all fodder for flies, maggots, worms. I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
Because really, it's toxic.
It probably was a lot of drunk rodents out there. They were feasting on him.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to sign us out, hon?
I sure do. You better lock your doors. You better lock your windows. And you might want to check under your bed.
And if I see PK Small Snapjaw, I'm running like hell.
Run.
Run, Forrest, run. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. And we will see you again on Malice Monday.
See you on Monday.